John 3:16. How well do we actually know what this verse is saying? If I were to do a survey of everyone out there and ask, what verse do you think you know? What's the most common verse? What's the most famous verse of the Bible? You'd probably tell me John 3:16. And it's usually the first verse every Christian ever memorizes. In fact, you don't even have to be a Christian to have heard about that verse. Am I right? The problem is, I think because this verse is so commonly referred to, sometimes it just gets glossed over. We just kind of skim over it. We kind of have an idea of what it says, so we take it as, well, I know what it means. Hey, I'm Daniel Lee, and I'm the host of the Divine Muse. I want to say thank you for you clicking on and checking out this video. It's one of the first ones I've ever done, so it's probably not going to be the best, hopefully not the worst you've ever seen. The editing's probably going to be off, and as you can tell, I'm still trying to figure things out. The good thing is, God's already got everything figured out. So, buckle in, make sure your seats are in the upright position, because this one is about to take off. Let's go. So you already know it by now. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. I'd like to take just a few of these words, well, quite a few of these words, and do what's called a word study. I want to break down these words and take a better look so we can get a more well-rounded look at this verse. Do you notice the verse starts with for? Now, I'd played golf, and let me rephrase it. I had gone with a friend who played golf because I can't play golf. And I noticed that he put the ball on the tee. He lined out his shot. He swung for that ball. And then all of a sudden he declared, "4!" I was like, what in the world was that? And what he was trying to do was he was trying to warn people downrange because he didn't know where that ball was going. He was trying to warn people downrange to look out for the ball. In this context, the word for is used to assign a reason, present an explanation, or intensifying a point. You know, a lot of us wonder, is there a plan? Did God have a plan when he set everything into motion? And this word says yes. It's as if he's declaring because of everything that he's thought of, this was the one thing that was driving us forward. For. You know, John says in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It's as if the two, Jesus and God, had sat down before the world was ever formed, and they came up with a plan. Hey, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to create this world, and then sin's going to enter into the world, and these people are going to be condemned. We've got to save them. And Jesus speaks up, yep, me, I got it. I'm here for God. The Greek word here is theos, referring to the supreme deity or the magistrate. You know, when you go to a restaurant, you walk up to the counter and you say, hey, I'd like to have this burger and fries. And they look at you and they say, this is going to be $6.32. I know you're wondering what restaurant's going to sell it for $6.32. Not today, right? Maybe back in the 50s, but not in the 2020s. I know. But the idea is the restaurant decides what the price is. You don't get to negotiate what the price is. The word theos, when it's saying the magistrate, the deity, what we're actually talking about is the person who created the world, set everything into motion. And if there was one person who could set the law, it's the one person who created everything. When you go to someone's house, you don't get to just walk in, go to the fridge, and pull out whatever you want. because the owners of the house, the family in that house, they set the rules, and your guest, that's kind of what we're talking about here. He's the one that sets everything into motion. And so Jesus is saying, God is the one that had a plan, the one who set everything together, the one who, as he told Job, told the seas how far they could go or set the stars in the sky. That same God is the one who made a way. When nobody else could have come up with a way, God the Father made a way. The next word is loved. It's in the Greek, I knew I was going to mess this up. Agapo. Thank you. And if you got a better translation, or if you think you can do a better job, just drop a comment down below. Agapo is actually the verb tense for the word agape. It means to love dearly and without condition. The verb tense takes it a little further, denoting an affection involving choice or selection. God chose us. God loved us so much. He chose us. It's not that we chose God, it's that God chose you and me. And that love was unconditional. There was no parameter set. There was no condition established to receive that love. It's not like I could hand him a $5 bill and say, "Do you love me?" He loved me even when I didn't know him. He made a way for me. That love made a way for me even when I didn't know I needed a way. That's amazing. The idea that love, and love today is so, I don't want to just say corrupted, but a lot of the idea of love today is very selfish. I love you as long as you meet my standard. You know, I'm going to date myself here, and everybody's going to figure out how old I am. It's kind of like Janet Jackson. What have you done for me lately? I don't think I'll get... Will I get kicked off YouTube for citing Janet Jackson? Here it's showing it's an unselfish love. When Jesus uses the word world, he's referring to everything in our tiny little bubble. And when I say everything, I mean everyone. I want you to think about everyone in that time frame. When you looked at Rome, you had not only the Roman centurions, you had all the Roman citizens, you had the Jewish nation, but you had some of the most destitute people. You had the slaves, you had the slavers, you had the prostitutes. You had the worst of the worst all right there in that time frame. And Jesus didn't, again, set a condition that there are only a few people that are allowed to be saved. He didn't put any stipulation that if you were black or white, if you were male or female. World is a term specifying that no matter where you're at, as long as you're in planet Earth, guess what? This is available to you without any condition. I know for some of us, we're like, whoa. You mean so-and-so who does this and this can get in even, I'm better than so-and-so. No, that's exactly what I mean. The world, it's all inclusive, regardless. You know, a lot of people, when we talk about love, we want to show affection by what we receive. No, let me rephrase that. Back up. We have an idea of what affection is based on what we receive. That's pretty common today. If you love me, you'll do this for me. But God demonstrates love in a different way, and that's the next word, gave. Some other ways you could consider this word would be like he bestowed, he committed, or he brought forth. It was a commitment on God's part on behalf of the world. God didn't set out the prerequisite that you're going to do this. God instead said, this is what I'm doing for you. That's kind of a weird idea for what we think faith should be today. Or excuse me, what love should be today. We have this idea that to demonstrate love, you'll do something for me. And that's quite contrary to what God's doing. And it's important to note, he's actually demonstrating a sacrificial love. And we're going to get to that here in a moment. That word gave is followed by his. It's not without irony that the word here is used in third person. There is the Father, there is the Son. It denotes that there is a relationship between the two, between the Father and the Son. And yet, because the Father and the Son are one and separate, really what we see here is that God is giving himself, a part of himself. He's allowing that which he cherishes to be given on our behalf. Literally, he's giving part of himself in the birth of his Son. That word's followed by only. This word has tripped up many people through the years. And I think that's not just because of different translations out there, but when people see the word only, they take it to mean that neither you or I are actually a child of God. Even if we have placed our trust in Christ, we're not actually children. It does say specifically only. However, the truth is that you and I are not actual children of God. We were not begotten of the Father. I have 2 kids. They are my kids. And even though being in youth ministry for 30 years, I have a ton of kids that I would claim that are my own, they're not physically my own. Does that make sense? But rather, you and I were adopted into this family, accepted as one of the family, grafted into the family. As Jesus would say, grafted into the vine. And it's not because of anything we've done to become a part of the family. It's because of the sacrifice that the Son has made. Now, the next word really kind of clarifies this point. Begotten. This verse is referring to, this word in the verse is referring to the actual virgin birth of Jesus. When we look at it in its entirety, it reveals how we enter into the family of God as well, because we come to the Father through the Son, the only begotten Son, the only way that we could get in, the way that was made for us to come forward into the family. We couldn't just do it on our own based on our own good deeds or our good efforts or on our own works. God made a way through his only begotten Son so that you and I could enter into the kingdom. And that's what the rest of the verse is really going to clarify. And talking about the Son, the Greek word used here is huios, and it's referring to the kinship, the relationship that I mentioned a little while ago between the Father and the Son. You know, I have a unique relationship with my kids. My kids are my kids. I love my kids, and there's absolutely nothing I wouldn't do for my children. There's no sacrifice I wouldn't make for my children. Now, I want you to consider that for a moment, because when you think about a relationship that a parent has with a child, now take into consideration what the relationship must have been between the Father and the Son. Before the world was formed, there was the Father and the Son. Before time was put in motion, there was the Father and the Son, and they too did what? Can you imagine? I mean, I love to take my kids to go see a concert, or I love to go play maybe a video game with them. I love interacting. Can you imagine what the relationship was prior to the world being created? And yet the Son chooses to come on our behalf. The Son, the Prince, the heir to the throne, the one that was present when everything was created, the one that helped establish the world, steps out of heaven, places his foot on earth, and is willing to take our place. Can you imagine how God must have felt? I'm sure there was some pride. The word son. Do we understand the relationship between the Father and the Son? Going on, Jesus uses this word next. He says, whosoever. Whosoever refers to all manner and means. Anyone, everyone, as many as. There's no condition or prerequisite established. Again, when we talked about world, we kind of brought this point up. The verse is actually hammering this point home. Whomsoever. And I want you to know, it doesn't say whomsoever believeth and quit smoking or quit cursing. It doesn't mean whosoever gets their life right, straight. Whomever cleans up the house, then they can come. No. It's if you want to come, it's open to you. You know, there are a lot of people that have a guilt in their heart and they say, well, God can never look at me, or God could never forgive me. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. Whosoever is you, regardless of whatever baggage we've got in the past, whatever bones we have in the closet. And let me tell you, there's none of us without blame, right? Each of us has something in our closet that we're ashamed of. And when Jesus chose to use the word whosoever, he's saying, regardless of what that shame is, it's available to you. Now, you knew this was coming, right? There is a condition. Yeah, there is a condition. There's a condition to all of this. Yeah, I know. What's it going to cost me? What do you expect of me? I mean, there's nothing for free, right? If it's too good to be true, it probably is true. No, that's not how that works. Anyway, what's the condition? You have to believe. Now, I'm not talking about, oh yeah, I know there's a God. There's a deist philosophy that says that, yes, there is a God, but God is so busy that he never gets involved with the affairs of the people on the planet, and people just kind of live their life as they want to. Believeth is to have faith in, to commit to place your trust in. One day I had to go up on the roof of our house. We had one of those squeaky turret things, you know, the vents for your attic that was just making this awful noise. Sounded like a banshee in the middle of the night. So I got up on the roof with some WD-40 and I sprayed it down. And when I started to get off the roof, the ladder fell. No, wait, there wasn't even a ladder. I climbed up through the carport. Anyway, it was easier going up than it was going down. What am I making? What point do I have to say here? My dad was standing outside and he said, "Son, jump, I'll catch you." Do you think I believed him? No. In fact, I said, "Dad, go get a ladder." And he said, "No, it's all right. Come on, I got you. Go ahead, jump." You think I jumped? Nope. I said, "Go get the ladder." Obviously, I didn't place my trust in my dad, right? And he laughed at me and he went and he got the ladder and I promptly marched my little self down off the roof. That's kind of what I'm alluding to. Believeth. It's not enough to know. It's to place your trust in. That's a hard thing for us to do. We don't want to surrender ourselves. We don't want to surrender the idea that we're no longer in control. And I think that's probably the worst stumbling block for a lot of people is we want to have Jesus and our cake and eat it too. I'll take Jesus as long as it doesn't interfere It's not how it works. Trust. And it is a two-way street. Trust means I'm willing to lay all my hopes and everything in your hands. Why is that important? Because if you put your trust in Jesus, in the Son, you won't perish. Perish means to render useless, to kill or to destroy. It's a declaration of death. I know we've all seen the movie The Titanic, and actually, you probably haven't, and if you haven't, you're probably better off for it, because that was 3 hours of my life. James Cameron that I want back. You know, who goes into a movie knowing how it's going to end, right? They're all gonna die, right? And my sister's like, oh my gosh, this is like the best movie in the whole world. We've got to go see it. And I'm sitting there going, I knew how this movie was going to end. Everybody's going to die. Perish. Can I tell you? We're all going to die. What comes after is really what we have to be focused on, because to perish is to be utterly destroyed. I'll get more to that point here in a second. I like the word have. Have means to place in one's possession, to hold and to keep. I'm going to let you have this, meaning I'm going to relinquish ownership and it becomes yours. Not for a second, not for a day, not for a week, a month. I'm actually giving this to you. My dad, when I graduated high school, gave me the keys to a 69 Mach 1 Mustang. And there was no condition set on that. He gave me his car, a gift. He let me have the car. Boy, that was so Will Shatner, wasn't it? Come on! He let me have it. Not for just any set amount of time. It became mine. You can have. And that's what this verse is leading to. What can you have? What is the gift? Have leads up to what our expectation should be. Everlasting. Everlasting is without beginning or end, to never cease or to close. It's always has been and always will be. You know, people ask if I believe that you can lose your salvation. And I tell them, and really it's based on this one word. And I've got other scriptures, and maybe one day we'll walk that road together. But this one word, everlasting, doesn't mean for the next hour or the next day or the next month or the next year or the next 10 years. It is everlasting forever, because it's not about the sacrifice you and I made. It's about the sacrifice the Son made. It's really not about any actions you and I make. It's it's Jesus plus nothing that equals everything. We bring nothing to the table except we choose to either accept or deny. That's really the only two things we bring to the table. And if we choose to accept, then what we have is everlasting. Yeah, but Daniel, what about everybody that turns around and walks away? Everlasting. My daughter, when she was young, she came to me, she said, Dad, I want to paint. And I said, okay, now I want you to know, let me preface this story by telling you, my daughter had, she and I were going somewhere, some big event, and I had taken the time to get her dressed in a very nice dress and all ready to go. And we had about an hour before it was time to leave. So she comes to me and she says, Dad, I want to paint. I said, okay. And I set out some watercolors, you know, the ones that already have the color in there, and all you gotta do is take the paintbrush and mix water on it and the colors magically appear. She looked at me, she said, no, Dad, I want to finger paint. You know, the one where you get the big old globs of paint out and you run your finger through it and you smear it everywhere. And she has come up with some amazing artwork, finger painting. Well, now she doesn't do it anymore. She's outgrown it, right? And I looked at her and said, no, we don't have time to finger paint. Besides, it'll get all over your clothes and it'll be a mess. And she said, fine, I don't want to paint anyway. Did she want to paint? Yeah, she did. She wanted to paint, but what did she do? She threw a temper tantrum. There are a lot of Christians throwing temper tantrums because they don't get their way. Father, I want it under this condition. This is the way I want it. Give it to me the way I want it. God is a loving Father who knows our hearts, and he understands our motives and our reasoning. If you've truly put your trust, you're willing to jump off the car or off the roof and let Jesus catch you. If you've put your trust in, you don't lose that salvation. You don't lose the everlasting life. That's how the verse ends, life. The Greek word here is zoe, and it refers to every living soul or the absolute fullness of life. That's a dual fold. It's not only just your eternal life, but it's your life here today in this world. When you accept Jesus and the sacrifice he made on our behalf, what you're saying is, Lord, I give my life to you. What can you do with it? It's not, okay, Lord, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and buy the fire insurance because I don't want to go to that other place, right? But my life's mine. And when I die, okay, you can have it because really, I don't even know if it exists, which isn't faith, by the way. So, all right. I'll put my trust in you and my soul is all yours, but my life is mine. No. And there are so many people today that are living such a miserable life without hope. They're stuck in addiction. They're suffering from loss, from betrayal. And they're looking for something tangible right now, not in what is to come. And that's what Jesus is offering. If you believe you have life right now. So what's the main emphasis of this verse? Or what is this verse really trying to tell us? There's a few points here that I want to make, and then I'll shut this off. God's love is offered to everyone on the planet, not just a select few. And we don't have to remain in the trappings of this life. There is a better way to live if we just accept it. The entire gospel is brought into a vivid view through this verse. The whole point of the message is really just kind of, it reveals that God's love isn't set or self-centered, that it reaches out to others and it draws them in. The whole point of the gospel is to find those in need, the hurting, the sick, the afflicted, and to tell them there's hope. That's what God is sharing, that he so loved us in everything that we were going through, that he made a way for us when we couldn't make that way. This verse demonstrates to us a pattern for what true love is. And that pattern should be the cornerstone of all relationships. If we love, our love should be unconditional. Our love isn't just for our spouse or our children. Our love is for our neighbors. And the same word, agape, is used in other verses just like that. Love your neighbor as yourself. Our love should be unconditional. You know, we look at the world today, and how many Christians out there, those who profess that they love God, and yet they hate their neighbor? Where is love? How is that demonstrated? Okay, I know. I'll just put a knot in that one and I'll thumbtack for another day. Love is unconditional. We should demonstrate that same love in our relationships, in our churches, in our communities. It shows us that when we love someone, we should be willing to sacrifice for that person. And it's not just a matter of us sacrificing for that person, it's with the expectation of getting nothing in return. It's not me going over to you and saying, good job. Okay, now pat me on the shoulder. Come on. Come on. It's not going up to you and going, I forgive you. My turn. Come on. Tell me you forgive me. Come on. I love you. No. What God demonstrated by giving his son, there was no, I don't want to say proof. I know that's a long pause and you're going, come on, spit it out, spit it out. There would be people that would reject Jesus, and God still made that sacrifice. You and I are brought up in a very selfish world where we think you pat my back, I pat yours. What you do for me, I do for you, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And Jesus said, no, 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 no. You don't do it for the reward. You don't love someone with the expectation of getting something back if you truly love them. God's demonstration through his son really sets a cornerstone for what true love is all about. See, love's about meeting the needs of others and not your own. In this instance, God made a way to save those who had little hope in rescuing themselves. God paid the ultimate price to save us. He sent his only begotten son, that relationship. When we couldn't make a way, God showed us love by sending his son. I also want to make this point, however, it's not enough just to believe that Jesus died for you. The Bible says that even the demons believe there's a God and they fear and tremble. It's not enough to believe. James would say that if you have faith, I'll demonstrate my faith by my actions, by my works. You have to put forth the trust, the faith. You have to be willing to jump off the roof and let Jesus catch you. I know, I'm a hypocrite because I wouldn't let my dad catch me. I get it. But do you see the point I'm trying to make? It's not enough to just believe with a deist approach. You also have to trust. You have to surrender. You have to give your heart. You have to believe. The parish that Jesus is referring to in this verse is an eternity without God and its context. It's an eternal separation from the Father without hope of ever having a second chance. You know, a lot of people want to put a lot of emphasis and a lot of evangelists, and trust me, the other place, Shiloh, hell, I don't want to go. But that's not the worst. The worst is, see, right now we all have this hope in us that there's something else out there, that there's a better opportunity. And it's knocking. It keeps pulling at us, gnawing at us. And we're not real sure what it is, but there's something that says, I can be more than I am. I was created for a reason. There's a purpose for my life. There's something about me that makes me unique. And once we perish, it's all gone. It's because that emptiness that's calling to us is God saying, come home. To perish is to never have that opportunity. I also think the verse is revealing, like I said earlier, life is twofold. There's life everlasting in the eternal, and there's our current life. Some of us are struggling with life, and we're looking for a little bit of hope. Okay, we're looking for a lot of hope. And that's exactly what this verse says. When there was no hope, God gave us hope through his son. Then all you have to do is trust. Does that mean all your bills are going to be paid? No. What it means is that God is going to come in to your life and he's going to help us carry us through the hardest times. We may have to work a little more, but God's going to give us the strength. He's going to help us with our families. He's going to encourage us like a father would. I don't know about you. I couldn't get my dad to pay for nothing. He said I was a grown adult. I should be able to go support my own family. That's just not right. It means that there's something in this life, not just in the next, that God is with us today. Is that all we can glean from this passage? Not at all. Jesus, when John's speaking about Jesus did so much in his lifetime that John says that if every single thing about his life were written down, that there would not be enough library space to contain all the books. I think if we were to read every single or write every single book possible on this verse, there wouldn't be enough library space. And there'd still be more to discover. Hopefully, though, this will give you a better understanding of what this well-known passage actually means. Not just glossing over it and skimming through it and saying, oh, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him would not perish but everlasting life. Got it? Yep. Okay, I'm good. Now let me know what you think this passage means. Leave your comments below and let me know if you have a different take on this verse. Likewise, if you enjoyed this video or if you'd like to see more content like this one, would you click that thumb up button? And if you want to give me some ideas about how to improve my video, come on, give me the comments. But remember, hater, you ain't got to be hating on me, okay? And don't forget to share this video on whatever social media platform you like to hang out on. Hey, did you like the song that played on the intro? That was Noise Revolution by The Protest, and I want to say thank you for permission to be able to use that song. Again, that's The Protest, Noise Revolution, off their album Legacy. I'll leave a link to their video in the comments so you can check out the song in its entirety. Until next time, remember, study to show yourself approved unto God, a workman that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. My opinion is just my opinion. Don't take my opinion for it. Go study it out for yourself. Hey, I'm Daniel Lee. Thanks for hanging out with me here on the Divine Muse. God bless you.